Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Let's start the meeting. Good evening. There's no fire alarm planned for this evening. Should the alarm sound, please leave by the nearest available emergency exit. Two of the closest exits are through the glass door behind you to my left and through the double doors on the riverside behind. Please muster at Café des Amis. Members of the public are welcome to make their own recordings of the meeting using whatever non-disruptive methods they think are suitable. The meeting is being minuted and recorded and will be audio streamed via the Council's website. Westgate Garden gates on the riverside are locked, so members of the public must leave the Guildhall by the side exit, which is the one behind the glass door. I don't need to explain that to them, do I? Yes.
Do we still need to? No.
Okay. So could I take any apologies for this evening, please?
We have apologies from Councillor Carr Ellis and Councillor Ian Stockley, Chair.
Thank you. And are there any substitutes?
There are no substitutes tonight.
Thank you. So we come to declarations of interest by councillors or officers. So Lauren, could you read out the declarations you've received? Thank you.
All or some councillors may have received correspondence from or spoken with applicants, agents, supporters or objectors, and some of the public speakers may also be known to members of the committee due to their work as councillors. Neither circumstance prevents councillors from participating in the meeting. However, any councillor who considers that they do not have an open mind in respect of any item on the agenda should not participate in the meeting when the relevant item is to be discussed. We have a voluntary announcement from Councillor Mackenzie, who is predetermined on agenda item 7, and will leave the chamber for the item after the speakers.
Thank you very much. Are there any more declarations from other councillors in the meeting? No, thank you. There are 3 public speakers tonight, and 1 councillor will speak in addition, and they will be heard immediately after the officer's presentation for each relevant item. Thank you. Can we move on then to the first application, number CA/23-01248, 48 St Dunstan Street, Canterbury. So please can I ask Christian, oh it's not, sorry. It's you. It's me. Stevie Andrews is going to present the report for this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just by way of an update for members, following the publication of the agenda, we did receive an additional representation on this application, and to make members aware of the issues that were raised in that letter. They raised concerns about the lack of parking and the loss of the building, so that's an additional representation we received after the agenda was published. Now, prior to the meeting as well, all councillors would have received an email from the planning agent on this application. This email referred to the enforcement investigation into the loss of the building on the site and also the delays with reporting the application to the planning committee. So for background information for councillors, an enforcement investigation did take place into the loss of the previous building on the site, and these investigations were concluded and no further action is being taken. So now the application in front of the planning committee this evening, this is for a new building at the site. So the loss of the previous building and the enforcement investigation into this, it's not a material consideration to the decision on whether or not the proposed new building should or should not be granted planning permission. And to take this matter into consideration when making that decision would be unlawful. Turning to the timing of the application being reported to the planning committee, this isn't related to the enforcement investigation and the conclusion of that. We received advice from the county archaeologist on the impact of the development on archaeology last month, so we were able to finalise the report and report the application to the planning committee for this meeting. Can we put the slides on?
We're just waiting for a presentation.
Yes, sorry. Great. So, next slide. So moving on to the application members are considering tonight, the proposal is for a new building on the site, and the application site is on the corner of St Dunstan's and Orchard Street, as shown outlined on in red on the slide in front of you. Next slide, please. So now councillors will be aware that there previously stood a building on the site. This was locally listed and made a positive contribution to the character of the conservation area. The photographs on the slide here show the front elevation. So the picture, the photo on the left-hand side shows the front elevation, and the one to the right shows the side elevation of that building on the corner with Orchard Street. Next slide, please. Now, as mentioned in the committee report, planning permission was granted for various extensions to the previous building, and this plan shows the approved plans for the side and rear extensions that were approved previously. Next slide, please. And as I said before, this application is for a new building on what is now an empty site in the conservation area. The main consideration with this application is whether the proposed building would preserve or enhance the character and appearance of the conservation area. The proposed building is of a similar design and scale as the previous building with the approved extensions to this. Material and joinery details have been provided with the application, and these are considered to be sympathetic to the conservation area. So for the reasons set out in the report, the proposed building is considered to preserve the character and appearance of the conservation area, and so the application is recommended for approval subject to safeguarding conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we now take the public speakers. As I understand it, the order now is Ashley Newstead first. Is that right? Could you come forward and address the committee? Thank you.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name's Ash. I'm the registered manager with a local supported living company called Cedar Care. We are also local to the area, having sites on both London Road and Station Road West. I'd like to start by giving my full support to the plans to rebuild and redevelop the site where the former convenience shop used to be. I'm sure I speak for a large portion of the local community when I say that since the former shop has been gone, there has been an additional strain on many local people. Since the nearest reasonable alternative is the local Sainsbury's local, a little bit further down the road and over the train tracks. From where we are situated, usually at accelerated prices, and that obviously has a bit of a financial impact on some local people as well in times of such financial hardship. Whilst there is an alternative on offer, it may be a practical option for some. However, the individuals who I support day to day within my organisation have encountered a huge barrier in obtaining essential supplies and provisions from the further away alternative. We support people with enduring mental health conditions, with other comorbidities, such as physical ailments and mobility issues. And this has added to their day-to-day struggles having to go further away. For those who do struggle, when the former shop used to be in business and be present, they used to offer a local on-foot or bicycle delivery service for vulnerable people in the area and people that struggle to mobilise to the site. This included light provisions and newspaper deliveries, and also they played a huge part in the local community during the recent pandemic as well. Until their closure, they were even kind enough to deliver milk for my team at both our sites, which shows very nice and positive collaboration between local companies. Something you don't often get with larger retailers, I'm sure everyone is aware of. Despite one of our sites being closer to the local Sainsbury's, our residents actually used to prefer the longer trip up to a local shop simply because of the more positive customer experience that they used to gain, the rapport that was built between the shopkeepers, the staff and our residents. They just got a much more family kind of feeling from it, much more positive and engaging experience. Unfortunately for most of our residents, these inconveniences don't stop there. A number of our residents who also live locally, like I say, have mobility issues and other limitations, whether it be physical or social anxieties. Of course, it isn't just applicable to my residents. I'm sure there are other people in the wider area around St Dunstan's and beyond. I think the inclusion of a post office in the development, which I believe are in the plans, would be a monumental benefit to the local area, seeing as the closest post office is some 1,500 metres away in the town at, I believe, WH Smith's. I can't think of many people that would object to having a nearer post office, given the amount that has been lost nationwide. With regards to the proposed residential properties above, I think I know I would be wholeheartedly in support of those as well. As everyone is aware, there's a housing crisis, both on a local and national scale. Of course, I'm under no illusion that these few properties wouldn't solve that issue, of course, but it would certainly be within the Canterbury's local plan to help facilitate housing, employment and infrastructure and open space development, and would undeniably be a step in the right direction. Absolutely, yeah, that's where it would end anyway. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Naomi Bird. I'm a planning barrister and I've been asked to speak briefly on behalf of the applicant. Very grateful to Ms Andrews for clarifying that the enforcement investigation mentioned on the face of your report and that followed the collapse of the original building. That's now closed. It closed in January of this year. And the council concluded that there was no substance to those allegations. And as Ms Andrews has told you, taking that into account would not be a material planning consideration. It would be unlawful to do so. Moving on to the merits of the proposal, which are a material planning consideration. You heard from Mr Newstead about how valued the old store was and how valued the new store will be. It is a very important community facility. In terms of the design, the applicant's taken great care with it. The proposed building is going to look essentially the same as what was already granted permission in 2018. It's going to be a visual improvement when compared to the original building. The shop front in particular is much more sympathetic to its historical context. That's accepted by the consultees, and the whole building is going to make a positive contribution to the character of the conservation area. In terms of facilities for the community, the shop is going to be open until at least 11 o'clock every evening. There will be a new post office, the parcel collection and newspaper delivery services that were provided before will be provided again. In fact, I'm instructed that Mr Patel has been renting the bakery over the road since May of last year when the building collapsed, so that he could actually carry on offering the newspaper delivery service. So again, that's something that will resume when the shop is opened. So there are clear benefits over and above the 2 residential flats that will result when the building is completed. You've heard objections referred to about parking. I'm not going to cover ground that's dealt with in the officer's report. Just suffice to say that's obviously a matter for KCC Highways, and they've never had any reason to object to what is proposed. So overall, Mr Patel would say that the proposal does accord with the plan, it does accord with all material considerations, and he would respectfully invite you to follow the officer's recommendation and grant permission this evening. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And the third speaker is Mrs Dunkel. I gather you may have some photographs you'd like shown. Do we have those, Lauren? Just bear with us a minute while we make sure we've got these. There's something in the way. Is that the correct first picture? Are you happy with that? Fine. That's lovely. If you just indicate when you want them changed. Okay, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Mrs. Dunkel, representing myself and my husband. I'm Mrs. Dunkel, representing myself and my husband as the owners since the mid-70s, actually, of the Freeman Hardy and Willis Depot building and its curtilage at 46 Orchard Street. We only want to reiterate ours and other strong objections to the overdevelopment of the Coscutter Corner Shop site, which we've known for many, many years. But it does directly and seriously impact on our property. We wouldn't have objected to a more considerate redevelopment of the shop on the now cleared site, but the sheer scale, inappropriate mass and height, which now entirely infills the previous backyard areas and comes right up to and along our boundary walls and building. There are pictures to be shown shortly. During the last year's initial demolition and clearing works, our walls were damaged and compromised, this despite a party wall award in our favour, which has been ignored. Our agents who submitted 2 reports actually cited these incidents and others. The 2023 retrospect application is riding on the back of the 2018 permission. We don't seem to get any communication about these applications and the various ones in between. And regarding this one, we then instructed JTS to represent us. But we're now faced with the prospect of a 2.5+ storey red brick building rising up against the entire length of our northeast aspect boundary wall and building, with no way of maintenance of either, let alone building it, leaving a crude, narrow drainage gully against our walls, the foundations of which appear to have been dug away and left in places. The site hoarding access gate has been nailed to our building without our permission and not moved away as requested in the PWA. Our single-storey northeast-facing drawing office and studio will be completely overshadowed by this build, with loss of light to our land and property. And our building is used, despite some comments. Of the many layers and revisions of drawings submitted, there are inconsistencies as cited by JTS. Elevation drawing on page 19 of the draft condition shows 3 second-floor windows directly overlooking our northeast-facing drawing office window and entrance doors, whereas drawing of the ground and first floors and roof shows bedroom 2 without a window but with roof lights. To avoid loss of our privacy and options open for builders to interpret, we do request construction is to this latter drawing and that the other 2 windows are obscured if they can be on their lower sections for the same reasons. This same drawing does not show the 2 large open reach boxes along our flank wall, where the only entrance gate shown into the new store and its room, the flats, the staff room, corridor for the fire escape, goods in, out, bicycles in, out, commercial and domestic waste bins in, out. These boxes obstruct the entrance, contrary to that shown by an arrow on the drawing that has been submitted. A vent has recently been added to this small multi-purpose storeroom, fume and damp extraction possibly, which will vent into the narrow gap or over our wall. If it's mechanised, it would create sound nuisance and moisture. We do ask, because we care about our building and the neighbourhood, we've lived here a long time and worked there. We ask that these serious issues are please addressed and planning details may be reconsidered and modified with safeguards in place to protect our property in its established setting as a north and east-like construction within this conservation area, in view of the somewhat overbearing new build proposed to the rear of the new build. It's difficult to keep to the 3 minutes with such a conflicting and convoluted situation, but I ask you to protect us and any further consideration and even a meeting. Thank you. Shall I turn it off?
Thank you. I want to open this for discussion from the chair. I do propose to recommend that we follow the officer's grant. However, I would first of all like to hear a few views from the floor so I can open up the discussion. Harry.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the agenda, I was looking at the parking and highway safety section, and I just think it was a little bit short. I was wondering if the officer could speak us through a bit more on the parking and highway safety element of this application. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else who wants to speak on that matter? Because it is one that... Dane.
That's right, near enough. It was, yeah, sort of about the parking. So around the front of it on St Dunstan Street, so you've got the corner that's got the bollards there to stop people parking, but on St Dunstan Street itself, there are no bollards, and but virtually all the time there's always cars parked along there and up on the pavement. And I was just wondering if we're being more sort of community-based and things like that and helping out with the community, it could help cyclists when they're pulling out of Orchard Street if there was bollards on St Dunstan Street, because then the cars wouldn't be parked there. So as you pull out on a bike, you wouldn't have to then go round parked cars. Is that clear? Do you get what I mean? Thank you.
Any other parking issues before I ask Stevie Andrews to reply? In that case, I will ask the officer to reply to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the building that previously stood on the site, that had a shop at ground floor level and 2 flats above, and the proposal is again for a shop and 2 flats above. Because of the location and the proximity of the site to the city centre, there isn't a requirement in the local plan to provide parking on site. And that's obviously because of the proximity to the city centre, the ability to access the site through various modes of transport. So there is no actual parking standard that the application is required to meet through the local plan. Now, I hear there are some concerns about safety of pedestrians, cyclists, and that might be something that could be raised through Kent Highways, because it is on Highways land. So there may be some scope to approach KCC for some advice on that. But in terms of the impact of the planning application, as I said, there are no parking standards that are required to be met in this instance because of the proximity to the city centre. Thank you, Chair.
Any other contributions? Then Councillor Bothwell.
Yeah, it's not about parking, is that okay? Are we talking about other things now? Not about a parking issue?
No, not about parking. We've had the answer to that. Yes.
Fine, okay.
Please feel free to raise anything.
Yes, it's about lack of private amenity space for the 2 dwellings. And I think there is a scope within the footprint of the building with the extensive roof area to provide private amenity space by roof terraces for the 2 dwellings. And this hasn't been provided. We experienced during lockdown how important it is to be able to get outside our dwellings. And I think it's very important for our mental health and for the mental health of the residents. So I would urge the applicant to reconsider the design such that some rooftop terraces could be provided, outdoor spaces where people could eat outside, in addition to the accommodation inside the building. Thank you. I mean, it is in the Code for Sustainable Homes. It's one of the key factors in reaching a certain standard with the previous Code for Sustainable Homes was providing outdoor private amenity spaces for each dwelling. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm coming back to the party wall agreement with the neighbouring resident that it's more of a civil matter, is it? We can't really, it's not a planning issue, is it? So we can't really look into that. So it seems a shame, but yeah, that's what I thought it was. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
I would just ask Kath Warren to comment on the legal issue.
Yes, sorry, Chair. Councillor Thomas is quite right. It is a civil matter.
I think what I'm now going to do is actually move to support the officer's recommendation, which is grant subject to safeguarding conditions. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Smith. Councillor Mackenzie.
Sorry, Chair, can I ask one more question? I just want to clarify whether this is something for us to consider first or not. Would we be able to put a condition that they're not able to put any banners or advertisements on the shop if granted that advertise, disposable vapes or anything like that? Because that's something I feel quite strongly about with our local area. Is that something we deal with in this committee?
Just confirming what I thought, but that would have to be a separate application, so we would have an opportunity, or at least planning would have an opportunity to consider that on its merits as and when it came, if there was advertising required. If there are no other comments, shall we move to the vote? Lauren, could you... we've got to do roll call, haven't we? Oh, we have. Just to explain to everybody, we've got to actually call everybody's name because we've got some of our systems down at the moment. So, Lauren, if you could do that for us, thank you very much.
Councillor Bothwell? 4. Councillor Buckman?
4.
Councillor Edwards? 4. Councillor Franklin?
4.
Councillor Jones? Councillor Mackenzie?
4.
Councillor Mellish? Councillor Old?
4.
Councillor Prentice?
4.
Councillor Smith?
4.
And Councillor Thomas?
4, please.
That's unanimous with 11 votes. Chair passed.
Thank you very much. Should we just have 1 minute while people who may want to leave the chamber? Just a couple of minutes, just so that people, if they wish to leave, can do.
Chair, while we're waiting, we do we not have we not got minutes in this meeting from last time? Do we not need them? Okay.
Very good question, because I've only just approved them today, so I think it's probably they haven't got chance. I've only. No, Councillor Thomas, you're correct to remind us, but I think there was some wording changes needed before they went out, and so I just got them this morning. We'll bring them to the next meeting. It's not that we haven't done them, but it's just the timing. Okay. So for those people who saw an earlier version of our agenda, we are now moving across item 6, which has been withdrawn at the moment, and on to item 7, just in case you were thinking what happened to that. It was withdrawn. So we're on what is on our list, item 7, which is application number CA 23-02091, Calcott Bungalow, Calcott Hill, Surrey. If I could ask Ashley Kynes to open the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So this application relates to Calcott Bungalow in Surrey, which is a single-storey detached property. The application is for a change of use from residential to mixed use as a dentist on the ground floor and one residential flat at first floor level. The application is brought to the committee by Councillor Mackenzie and Councillor Carnack. Just for context, this is the application site outlined in red. And again, this is the existing and proposed front elevations and side and rear. So the external alterations relate to an increase in size in the existing dormers and the addition of a ground floor door. The dormers are considered to be acceptable given that they retain the pitched elements of the existing and are finished in matching materials. The proposed first floor flat meets government's guidelines on internal space standards, and as such, there's no objection to this element of the proposal. Overall, there's considered to be no unacceptable impact on living conditions to neighbouring properties. So here there's just two maps, one showing a bird's eye view of the site in its wider setting. So the local plan does support the creation of new medical facilities. However, it steers these types of developments to sustainable locations such as town centres or existing settlements where a larger proportion of people can access them. The application site is situated approximately 1 mile from any settlement and is adjacent to the A291, which is a classified road and has a speed limit of 50 miles per hour. The site has a bus stop approximately 100 metres to the south, so just down here, which is accessed by a narrow, unlit footpath, which is on the left-hand side as you look at the map. Therefore, people would also have to walk or cycle along this road to access the site, if not travelling by car or bus. Just the picture on the image on the right shows the application site in yellow, and in red is the site of an appeal which was dismissed which was for 4 dwellings and was dismissed on the grounds of its unsustainable location, with the inspector citing that other methods of sustainable transport would be extremely limited given the location of the site. So KCC Highways were consulted given that it's adjacent to a classified road. The applicant originally submitted plans utilising the existing access, to which KCC objected given that there was insufficient visible displays. The plans were then amended to create a new access, which you can see on this plan, which has now resulted in the creation of a crossroads. So ultimately KCC Highways objected on 2 grounds. The first being the creation of crossroads, which is considered to be unacceptable on any road with a speed limit higher than 20 miles per hour. KCC Highways also objected, given that the applicant had provided for 12 parking spaces. The local plan parking standards recommend that a maximum of 19 spaces be provided, and KCC Highways objected on the grounds that should a dentist be approved at this site, the maximum allocation of parking spaces should be provided, given that the likely access to the site would be by car. Therefore, given the reasons set out, I just want to show some photos, So this is the access looking south. And again, this is the access looking north. And then looking south, this is the bend in the road, just immediately adjacent to the access. And then this is looking south. So therefore, given the reasons set out in the report, the application is recommended for refusal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have the Ward Councillor, Harry Mackenzie, who is going to read for one of the attendees who was unable to access the system properly.
Right, hello everyone. I'd like to make it clear that these are not my words. I'm saying this out of a kindness to the applicant who didn't get this submitted in time. I'm a qualified dentist and I currently run 2 separate businesses located 6 miles apart. Bridge Dental Practice in Bridge and the Grove Clinic in Grove. Both businesses are successful, but have outgrown their current premises, with no room for expansion, no disabled facilities, and very restrictive parking at both sides. The application is to operate from one single location at Calcott Bungalow in Sturry. I am planning to provide both NHS dental services and a well woman / aesthetic clinic from the proposed site. There are two outstanding issues with the application: location sustainability and access restrictions. The proposed site is an ideal and sustainable location on the main road linking Whitstable and Canterbury. It has public transport links, it's easy to find, will offer free off-street parking, disabled facilities and privacy, which many patients request. I therefore strongly disagree with the planners who deem the property in an unsustainable location. It was previously operated as a care home, so there should be no issue with it reverting to a clinically based business. There are also many other businesses around, including the Punch Tavern, DT Commercial Workshop, Chaucer Farm, Camping, and the Butcher of Bogdale, amongst others. Sturry has recently lost some local businesses, including an NHS dental practice, and would therefore benefit from a new business opening up, especially offering NHS dental services, menopause support, and employment for the local community. The site access shown tonight is an amendment to the original access proposals and was offered as an alternative option. The original proposals were to use the existing access on the site, one that has been used for decades without issues, including when it was operated as a care home. The second option before you tonight was offered during the course of the application because it was advised that there was a minor incursion of part of one of the north-facing visibility splays over the land outside of our ownership. However, we consider the north-facing visibility splays over land outside of our ownership. Sorry, I kind of lost my place a bit. However, we consider the existing access to be perfectly usable with the proposed use, given its historic use, and would like to offer members the opportunity to consider both access options and that have been submitted. We were not offered the opportunity to present the first access proposal to members beforehand, so I'm bringing this to your attention now. My fear is that more emphasis is placed on ticking the right policy boxes rather than seeing the huge potential benefit of serving the local community and supporting small local businesses, especially in the current challenging times. The nearest NHS practice is the other side of Canterbury, and there is great need and demand amongst the local community.
Thank you. Do we have the name of the lady?
Briata.
Thank you, Harry. So you'll be leaving. Thank you. Just wait. Thank you. Can I move to support the officer's recommendation, which is to refuse? Do I have a seconder? Yeah, Dan Smith, thank you. I do. Now, can I open up for discussion? Anybody wish to make some points? Councillor Prentice, sorry. I'm having so much trouble with my own hearing.
Thank you, Chair.
Thinking twice about what I say as well. Councillor Prentice, thanks.
I have to say I'm genuinely undecided on this at the moment. While we're looking at the application as a planning application and not for any other merits, we do obviously need good quality healthcare services. However, the point that strikes me in the report is the potential danger from creating a crossroads on a 50-mile-an-hour road. And I think KCC's objection has to be taken very seriously. While I've looked at, there are bus routes in the area. It is actually on the Triangle route, which is one of the most frequent routes in the area, if not in Kent. However, we can't assume that everyone attending the dental practice would be travelling by bus. Many people don't. So I think it makes it a very difficult one for this committee to pass because really it's those access arrangements that really trouble me. I think in another location this would be a different matter, and I think it would be be lots of different considerations. But I think I'm inclined at present to not support it. Regrettably, because I do recognise the need for these kinds of healthcare services and for a council to be doing everything it can to enable them. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak on this one? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was unsure. I know the area very well, like most people. In fact, I pass it most every day when I come in and out of Canterbury. For me, regarding sustainability, I don't have a problem with that. We have a bus route there. Most people, you can get on the bus either side of the road. Plenty of visibility, and the path, if it was nice and clean and kept nice, would be quite a nice, easy one to walk down to. But most people would travel there by car anyway, and that is the problem regarding the entrance. Even looking at the plans there and knowing if you took out, made it wider, we're right on that bend. And I'm all for, we need more NHS dentists. We've got properties being built all around our ears, and we need to be able to support people to provide these services. But I'm not 100% sure. I mean, the visual display, I've driven down it loads of times. I've looked, but I've obviously never driven out from the entrance. But it's coming from Herne Bay and turning right into it, where I feel that the biggest issue would probably be, rather than the other way, because you're coming off that bend in the road, even if the display was widened. So I agree with obviously Kent's concerns, the highway, and obviously. But for me, regardless of sustainability, I think it is sustainable to come to and from. I don't think that's a problem. I think, like my colleague, coming in and out of it is the bigger issue. I know it was a care home before. Maybe the coming in and out activity will be significantly increased, obviously, with a dental practice, which is a heavy heart. I would obviously, in this instance, agree with the officer's recommendation. Not because I don't want to disagree with the officer, but I look all things rounded. That on that one issue, it'd be difficult to go against, in my opinion, the road authority in that scenario. So that's all I need to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody? Councillor Mellish.
Very similar to Councillor Jones's comments, in terms that I know that road very well, having to travel here every day down that from Herne Bay to here. And the speed is variable down that road as well, between 40 mile an hour and 50 mile an hour, which invariably means that traffic goes faster than those speeds. One side of the road, sure, there is bus access, but one side of the road is very narrow, and actually the bus stops there are dangerous to use in terms that there's only possibly about a foot width in terms of pavement and so on. So an increase in terms of, if there was to be an increase in terms of bus travel, then that would be an issue. And again, as Councillor Jones said, turning right onto the site, crossing those speedy roads, again makes for considerable concern. So I'm minded not to support this, but it is a shame because it's a service that is needed, but it's not the right location, not on this occasion, not this time.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'm completely agree with my colleagues, and especially Councillor Mellish, having very nearly met my end on that particular road at almost this place many years ago, due to speeding vehicles and slippery roads with large lorries and tractors which also use that road. So I think it would be too dangerous with that particular turning. That's the only reason it is there. As Councillor Jones said, with heavy heart, because I think otherwise we need the medical centres, we need the dentist. Somewhere else would have been perfect, and I think that was said before by previous colleagues. Thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of questions, I think. Similar vein. When it comes, if they went to appeal, I suppose my question is, if they go to appeal, and it was a care home originally, and now they're looking at putting it into a dentist, do that give them more kind of strength in that application should it go to appeal? And the other question is, I kind of agree, because I think it's the other side of the road, but technically you have got a right turn if you're coming from Canterbury into the Punch Tavern, which obviously has got more vehicle movements going into the Punch Tavern as will have going into this application. So one hand, if you're going to say it's not sustainable because of the road, theoretically the restaurant should have been sustainable because you're turning right into that. It's just, where are we if this does go to appeal on those kind of grounds? Because that's what I'd be looking at as similar properties in that road. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so the existing access is a lawful access, but what we are considering is a new access. So that is what Kent Highways are looking at. And the concerns that they have is that the creation of a new access that would be opposite an existing access, and that could pose a highway safety risk. So that the inspector would take into consideration the comments from the local highways authority, and they would consider it on the basis of a new access being proposed in the same way, the way that we have considered it.
Councillor Prentice.
There could be, maybe there is a way to see this application come back to this committee if the access arrangements were changed, though I can't see how that's possible looking at, you know, a map of the layout of the road, because it does seem like there ain't a lot of choice in this matter, unfortunately. And I'm just sort of thinking out loud really about what else could be done, or what could be an alternative access arrangement. And unfortunately, it's just a point really. I can't see an alternative access arrangement, and I can't see anything that would be acceptable.
If there are no other comments, shall we move to take the vote? So the recommendation is to refuse this application, and so a vote for is a vote to refuse. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell? Councillor Buckman?
For.
Councillor Edwards? Councillor Franklin?
For.
Councillor Jones? Councillor Mellish?
For.
Councillor Old?
For.
Councillor Prentice?
For.
Councillor Smith?
For.
Councillor Thomas?
Please, for, please. Sorry.
That's unanimous, 10 votes for, Chair.
Thank you. So that application is refused. We move on to the next one, which is list.
Oh, yeah.
So we move to application listed as number 8, which is CA 2302067. What's LCD? LDC? Lawful Development Certificate. Thank you, Lawful Development Certificate. I'm Birch Lodge, Kingston. So could I ask Elizabeth Racci to introduce the report? Excuse my voice, everybody.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. This is an application for Birch Lodge in Kingston, which has been brought today because it's a councillor application. It's for a lawful development certificate to replace the ground floor rear window of the property and replace it with French doors. We believe that this app will fall under PD because it's the same materials and the colours in appearance. So on that basis, we recommend it be approved. Thank you.
We have no speakers on this item, and the recommendation is would be lawful. I propose we follow the recommendation that this would be lawful. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Prentice, thank you. Any comments? Councillor Smith?
Can I just ask, given this is councillor from our own group, is this something that perhaps the Lib Dems should declare an interest in? Yes, because I think, although belatedly, perhaps we should record an interest in this one on that basis.
Yeah, same here, please.
Sorry, any comments on this application? Yes, Councillor Thomas.
Just to clarify, the officer sort of implied it was a councillor's property. Did you say councillor's property or council properties? Sorry, it's my misunderstanding on.
Sorry, it's an application made by a councillor. Yeah, that's the reason why it's on the agenda.
Yes, I think it's the clues in the. I think the in the. Yeah. Can we move to a vote, or does anybody want to make any comment on this? I would think we can move to a vote that it would be lawful. So a vote for is to agree that it would be lawful.
Councillor Bothwell? Councillor Buckman? Councillor Edwards?
For.
Councillor Franklin?
Abstain.
Councillor Jones? Councillor Mackenzie?
For.
Councillor Mellish?
For.
Councillor Old?
Abstain.
Councillor Prentice?
For.
Councillor Smith?
Abstain.
Councillor Thomas?
4, please.
That's 8 votes for, Chair. That's passed, and 3 abstain.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we have no planning appeals under item 9, and we don't have any other business to be dealt with in public. And we don't have any other business which falls under exempt provisions. Shall I stay? We're having consideration of the letter, or just ask people to stay? We closed the meeting. Yeah. So we're now going to close the public meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.